a topic that the tenant took to TikTok.
They decided the problems with crime exceed their resources to control.
America, we need to talk about what's happening in Minneapolis because this story perfectly illustrates how Democrat policies have turned entire neighborhoods into war zones. A man named Tyler Klavinsky moved into a downtown apartment complex and within days received a text message saying that they hired a security firm to deal with drug dealing and loitering. But here's the kicker, just 2 days later, that same security company said, nope, we're out because the crime exceeds their resources to control. When professional security firms are literally running away from your neighborhood, things have gone completely off the rails.
A Minneapolis man has some major questions after moving to a downtown apartment complex last month. He aired his concerns on TikTok and has 140,000 views. You can see Frankie McClister is joining us now, and I knew you spoke with the creator of that video.
What is up, guys? TYSON DELACRUZ here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This isn't just about one apartment building. This is about how failed Democratic leadership has created a culture where criminals can operate with complete impunity while law-abiding citizens are trapped in their own neighborhoods. And it's getting worse every single day. Let me break down what's happening in the Stevens Square neighborhood of Minneapolis because this is ground zero for everything wrong with Democrat crime policies. Tyler Klavinsky moved into the area on a whim. He has his daughter part-time trying to make a life for himself and gets immediately hit with the reality of what Minneapolis has become.
Tyler Kotlowski is his name. He's lived in his apartment complex about a month now and says that things are so dicey that the security firm that is supposed to protect them ended up backing out. He has a feeling that this is a security problem that just cannot be solved overnight.
The apartment management company sent out a text saying they retained a security firm to address the loitering and drug scale complaints. Think about that. They had to hire a private security company just to deal with basic street crime that the police should be handling all along. But then just 2 days later, they get another email saying the security company has pulled out.
And they said, we're disappointed to share that the security company that was hired has pulled out of the neighborhood.
It's a conversation in the digital world with nearly 300 comments hosted by Minnesotan Tyler Kotlowski.
They decided the problems with crime exceed their resources to control.
The problems with crime exceeded their resources to control. Let that sink in, you guys. A professional security company, people whose job is to deal with dangerous situations, looked at this neighborhood and said, nope, we cannot handle this. What does that tell you about the level of lawlessness happening in Minneapolis? Tyler's reaction says it all. I moved in here. The company is like, all right, we're going to clean it up. We're going to clean up the neighborhood. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then just 2 days later, just like that, it didn't happen. But it gets absolutely worse, you guys. This isn't just about petty crime. We're talking about full-scale, open-air drug markets operating with complete impunity right outside people's homes.
This summer, we told you about a Minneapolis man whose apartment struggled to hire security to protect the tenants. The area near the intersection of First Avenue South and East 19th Street was so overrun with crime that security guards say they couldn't control it.
The area near First Avenue South and East 19th Street is overturned with crime and multiple security companies have given up. But here's what really shows you how bad it's gotten. Property manager Jim Rubin has to witness drug dealing on his front steps every single day.
Usually there's several people standing right here dealing drugs.
Where Jim Rubin manages 600 properties, give or take.
This crime is on my front step.
And describes his daily drop by.
I have to see people lined up here, standing here, sitting on my front step, openly dealing drugs.
Videos he shared show what he witnesses.
People lining up like a McDonald's drive-thru trying to get a McFlurry, openly exchanging drugs and cash. But when the news crews showed up with cameras, the dealers obviously scattered like roaches, but Rubin knows that they were watching. The reason we're not seeing it, A, because it's a little chilly, and B, is because there's cameras around. The reporter asked, do you think that they're watching? Rubin says, yes.
So we watched from afar, a tinted window from above on the corner of 19th and Nicollet.
It's right in the open. You can see the drugs and you can see the cash.
In August, one of Rubin's tenants said that Mint Properties, the company Rubin owns, hired a security firm, but the firm backed out.
They had to watch from a tinted window to see drug dealing happening in broad daylight. This is what Minneapolis has become under Democratic leadership, a city where criminals operate more openly than a legitimate business. Now here's what really gets me heated. Listen to what Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says about about this situation. This man is making excuses for why they can't arrest drug dealers operating in broad daylight.
The main driver of the issue is people that are hanging out either smoking marijuana or selling marijuana. And because that is not a crime, that makes it very difficult.
Hold up. Hey. Selling marijuana is absolutely still a crime in Minnesota, but this police chief is acting like his hands are tied because of marijuana laws. That is not the real problem, and he knows it.
We showed Chief O'Hara what we witnessed on Thursday morning. Is it just marijuana?
It is not exclusively marijuana. We have had arrests for other types of drugs in the area, but the problem does appear to be predominantly marijuana sales.
When pressed, Chief O'Hara admits it's not exclusively marijuana. We know that. We've had arrests of other types of drugs in the area. Yes, we know. So they know. So the police knows it's not just marijuana. They know other drugs are being sold, but they're still not doing anything about it. The police chief says staffing has presented a challenge while they're dealing with higher than average caseloads. But here's my question, my man. If you don't have enough police officers to handle basic street level drug dealing, what are you doing with the officers that you do have? But the police staffing problem is just the tip of the iceberg. Minnesota has a much, much deeper problem, at least in my opinion. A complete breakdown of accountability at every level of government. A city auditor says Minneapolis Police Department isn't cooperating with investigations into high-profile cases. Officers and department leaders have delayed and resisted interviews. This is exactly the kind of behavior that destroys public trust.
And the frustration here is our community safety auditors reached out to them more than a dozen times.
City Auditor Robert Timmerman says his team is being met with, quote, great resistance as they investigate MPD's response into what the city describes as high-impact public safety cases.
But here's what really shows you the culture of corruption here. This is the second consecutive meeting that MPD leadership has missed. They're not even showing up to explain their failures. And it gets worse. The police union is actively working to undermine accountability efforts.
Adding his team is also navigating attempts by the union representing officers to question and undermine his office's authority. As he was attempting to interview an MPD employee,
that employee was asked if they would be subjected to discipline if the auditor believes their answers were incomplete or untruthful. The city auditor, Robert Timmerman, said, this question itself was incredibly concerning to me. An officer asking if I can be untruthful with an officer of the city auditor. Think about that for a second. A police officer is asking if they could lie to investigators without consequences.
Now, in an email, the Police Officers Federation tells me Timmerman did not provide the whole question or context, adding that the actual question posed was important because it determines if the member is entitled to union representation during that questioning.
But the bottom line is Minneapolis police officers are more concerned about protecting themselves than serving the actual community. This is what happens when you have weak leadership, defund the police, and a culture that prioritizes criminals over victims. Minneapolis used to be one of America's most beautiful, clean, and safe big cities. Now it is a cautionary tale about what happens when Democrats run cities into the ground.
This was the Minneapolis that was. If the old version of Minneapolis was anything, it was clean and safe. Today is very different. Lifelong residents of Minneapolis will tell you there was a time they could walk these streets without a care.
There are homeless encampments, addicts roaming the sidewalks, getting free needles from the city, and a police department that's down 900 officers to 550. Tyler's experience in that Stevens Square apartment complex is just a microcosm of what's happening across the entire city. When security companies are abandoning neighborhoods because crime exceeds their resources, when police chiefs make excuses for not arresting drug dealers, when city auditors can't get cooperation from the departments they're supposed to oversee, that is not a functioning city anymore. That is a failed state operating under the illusion of government. America, the Minneapolis story should be a warning to every city in the country. This is what happens when you elect leaders who care more about protecting criminals than protecting citizens. Tyler moved into an apartment complex and watched a security company give up just after 2 days because the crime was too much to handle. jail. Property managers are watching drug deals happen in front of their steps every single day. Police chiefs making excuses for why they can't arrest people committing crimes in broad daylight. This isn't just about Minneapolis. This is about the fundamental breakdown of law and order that happens when Democrats prioritize ideology over public safety, when you defund the police, when you refuse to prosecute criminals, when you create a culture where accountability is seen as oppression. This is exactly what you get. The scenes we're talking about: security companies fleeing neighborhoods, open air drug markets, police departments refusing to cooperate with oversight. This is the natural result of failed Democratic policies. Minneapolis used to be a great American city. Now it is a cautionary tale about what happens when you let criminals run the streets while law-abiding citizens are trapped in their own neighborhoods. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.